Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I want to warmly welcome you. On this channel, I have lots of interesting videos on life as a doctor in the UK, relevant examinations, tips on examination, lifestyle advice, also on scholarship opportunities in the UK and overseas, with lots more interesting videos coming up. So, if you're interested in any of these, this is a channel you would want to subscribe to and also share to your friends. So this video will particularly focus on what I wish I knew before starting GP training as a registrar. If you're an international medical graduate or even a local graduate thinking of commencing GP training in the UK or who has just started GP training in the UK, I believe you find this useful because I discuss some useful information I wish I knew before I started training, and I believe this would help you sail through GP training successfully. But before that, I have other related videos to GP training I want you to know about. So I've got a video talking about TEST, which is a targeted enhanced recruitment scheme. I've also got videos on useful resources for the AKT exam, which is the part one of the RCGP exam that all GP registrars should take. And I've also shared a video on how my study group achieved 100% pass in the AKT exam, and also RCGP updates and guidance on the AKT exam in 2023. So I would urge you to have a look on my channel and also watch these videos as well, because these would be very helpful to you in your GP training journey. So sit tight and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So, first of all, I'll talk about mindset. It is important for you as a GP trainee to know that you are responsible for your own training. So, unlike internship years or foundation years or housemanship years, where probably in your home country you had a logbook or you had a supervisor who was really following closely and monitoring your progress and all that. In GP training, adult learning is what takes place. So you need to be responsible for your own training. Even though you have supervisors and program directors, you have to take charge. You need to be optimistic rather than pessimistic. The training journey is likely to be full of ups and downs, but if you keep an open mind and you always look on the bright side and remain optimistic, this would be very helpful in the training journey. The other thing is reflection. So in GP training, it's all about reflection, which also comes in when we talk about the GP portfolio. I'll be talking about it in depth in the course of this video, and there'll be other videos talking about the portfolio as well. So, what is reflection? Reflection is basically taking a step back, thinking through what you've experienced, thinking through what you'd maintain, what you stop, and what you would have done better if the same situation were to recur in future. So, each and every day, wherever you find yourself as a GP registrar, it's important to reflect on events, which may be good or bad, and this would be helpful in filling your portfolio and also with your progress as a GP registrar. Next, I'll be talking about engagement. So, these are some tips that will help you engage well as a GP registrar. In the training journey, you are expected to be proactive. So, clinical supervisors, educational supervisors, training program directors expect to see GP registrars being proactive in every single thing. Like I said earlier, you need to demonstrate adult learning, as GP registrars are not expected to be spoon fed with information, but should be seen to have a proactive nature towards everything. Now, with communication, aside dealing with patients, GP registrars will come across various clinical supervisors in various rotations, come across colleagues, rota coordinators, practice managers, administrative staff, and non clinical staff, and therefore should have the right communication skills. It is also important because feedback needs to be obtained yearly from clinical and non clinical staff, and this goes a long way to reflect in your portfolio and also before the ARCP panel, which is a form of appraisal that is done yearly. So I believe you don't want to be found wanting. Therefore, you need to ensure that you have good communication skills all the time. Next, I want to highlight some terminology. So you'll be hearing CS, ES, and TPD. CS means your clinical supervisor, and this is the key person who looks after you in a particular rotation, which may be in a hospital rotation or in a GP setting. ES is your educational supervisor. So the ES can be said to be your mother and your father, or your father, throughout the GP training. So this person looks after you throughout the GP training, and any concerns you have should be channeled to this person. TPD means training program directors, and they are basically in charge of our training, of our teaching sessions, and our well-being throughout the training journey. Next, always ask for help when you need it. Before asking for help, you can do your own research and try to find some answers or solutions to your questions. Then, you can present this to whoever you're seeking answers from or help from to clarify certain things or doubts that you have. Never assume, as this could be dangerous and this could cause you to find yourself in trouble. Be inquisitive. You should always ask questions. GP training may be probably something new to you, or if you're new to the NHS, there may be so many things that you may not know. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Always ask the right questions to get the right information so that you don't find yourself in trouble. You need to be punctual at all times in whatever rotation you find yourself. If for any reason you feel you may be late to work or you may not be able to get there on time, it is deemed polite to communicate this ahead of time, either through a phone call, either through email. Always try to be punctual. And if you are unable to achieve a task, or if you deem yourself not competent to do something, don't be afraid to say no, but say it gracefully. Communicate any uncertainties that you have or any doubts, as not doing so could put you at risk of making grave mistakes. Planning all the time is absolutely necessary. It is important to consider working smart all the time. This is because GP training is not easy, and therefore it is important to work smart. It can get tough sometimes when you have so many assessments and so many things on the portfolio to complete. So it's important to note that there are some key things in training that are very important and shouldn't be taken for granted. So there are some mandatory learnings that all GP trainees must ensure that they do. So these include the ESR learning, the e-learning, adult and child safeguarding, basic life support training. Also in the portfolio, there are some workplace-based assessments that need to be done. I'll be coming up with videos explaining the e-portfolio in detail as much as possible. So please subscribe and look out for my subsequent videos. So these workplace-based assessments are used to judge your progress as a trainee. So you can go to work and work hard and be the most hardworking doctor in the department. But if your workplace-based assessments are not fulfilled, unfortunately, you wouldn't be deemed as a good registrar. You also need to plan meetings with your clinical supervisor and your educational supervisor. As I said, you need to be proactive. So, if your supervisors haven't contacted you ahead of time, you need to be proactive to send emails across and to follow up on meeting dates. You also need to plan your annual leaves and your study leaves, and this would be in discussion with your clinical supervisor or your educational supervisor. or your human resource department. It is important to try as much as possible to push hard at the beginning of rotations because in the course of rotations, things could get tougher, you could get tired. So if you leave things to the end, you may be found wanting. It is important to note that there are many opportunities in the training journey. So some trainings could come up, there could be some courses that GP registrars could attend, and some postgraduate degrees that may come up in your deanery. So it's important to always keep your ears to the ground and look out for such information, especially in your email. Take advantage if you're interested. As a prospective GP registrar, you need to be aware of some subscriptions and payments to be made. First of all, it is important to ensure that your registration with the General Medical Council is always updated. Therefore, you need to ensure that your retention fees are paid and on time. You could either think of setting up a direct debit so that you don't miss your payments, or you could set up a reminder on your phone or on your email to ensure that you make payments on time to maintain your registration with the General Medical Council. Also, you could consider subscribing as an associate in training with the Royal College of General Practitioners. The fees to be paid can be found on the Royal College of General Practitioners website. Importantly, you also need to pay for the 14 Fish e-portfolio, which is an online portfolio where you store all your relevant assessments and key information that will be needed to assess you before you can pass out as a GP at the end of your training journey. I'll be coming up with videos detailing what the 14 Fish e-portfolio is about, so please subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming videos. Also, you need to be aware of two key examinations: the Part 1 exam, which is the Applied Knowledge Test, or the AKT, which can only be taken either in ST2 or ST3, but not in ST1. I have a video talking about the AKT exam on my channel, so please subscribe and do have a look as well, because it do talk about the necessary resources and how to ace this exam. There is also the Part 2 exam, which is called the SCA. SCA is Simulated Consultation Assessment, which is Part 2 of the RCGP exam, taken only in ST3. So these are some key websites and resources which I believe will be helpful to you if you just want to have a fair idea of what training entails before you start the training. And even when you start training, these are go-to websites for success in your training program. So the first one is the HEE GP Training Scheme website. Then there's the Bradford VTS website, the NICE CKS Guidelines, which is more or less the go-to Bible for every GP registrar, as it details the relevant protocols for managing various conditions, and GP Notebook. You could also consider getting the Oxford Handbook of Clinical Medicine for General Practice. So finally, I'll be discussing some key considerations to bear in mind before you start GP training. So first is the place of accommodation. If you don't already reside in the area where you would be having your GP training, then you need to plan this ahead of time, because it could be quite tedious finding a place of accommodation or going through the paperwork and the processes to obtain the accommodation of your choice before you start GP training. So you need to also decide whether you want to live close to the hospital or GP setting, or you want to live far away from it, the kind of accommodation you would want, the area, the choice of schools around, if you have kids, and so on. If you reside in the UK before commencing GP training, you also need to consider a change of address or relocation arrangement for your mails. So you can consider subscribing for the Royal Mail Relocation Arrangement so that you don't miss your mails when you relocate. You also need to consider registering with a GP because as doctors, we also need to take care of ourselves, especially when we are ill. Then, if you're eligible, you need to consider registering with your electoral commission in the area where you'll be having your GP training, as this goes a long way to help obtain a form of proof of address and also counts towards your credit score. If you're relocating from a country outside the UK, you need to open a traditional UK bank account on arrival to enable you get your salaries paid. There are also a number of discount cards that health workers can obtain to get discounts on purchases. I will be coming up with a video discussing some of these discount cards, so please subscribe and stay tuned for subsequent videos. If you don't have a valid driving license, it is important to start considering taking steps to obtaining this because GP registrars are expected to go on home visits and going by public transport can sometimes be a nightmare. So, if you don't have a driving license, start taking steps on that. Then, if you consider buying a house or doing some form of investment in future, you need to also start working on building your credit score if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you so much for staying to the end. I hope you have found this useful. If you're a GP registrar watching this video, definitely I know these tips are not exhaustive, so I'd recommend that you also drop in any further tips that you think would be useful for prospective GP registrars in the comment section. If you have any questions as well, feel free to drop a question and I'll respond as soon as I can. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out my other useful videos for GP training, which talks about the exams and which talks about the RCGP updates for preparation for the exams, and also free question banks that you can access as a member of the RCGP in preparation for your exam. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for upcoming videos. Bye!